We were about 7 months too late. They're building a word bank in their brain. And they're just waiting for the opportunity. And as soon as they get the muscular control, and infants, as young as infants, they understand contextual meaning. So they know that when their tummy feels like this, as they feel when daddy's or mommy's tummy felt like that, and that's the word they use, when their tummy feels like this, as soon as they have the oral muscular control, it's coming. So we expand and extend appropriate vocabulary. And when we recast, one of the biggest mistakes we make as parents and teachers is when children under the age of 5 are talking and we correct them. I go to the store. You went to the store. Yeah, that's what I said. I go to the store. I went to the store. Say it. Went to the store. You just shut down all forms of community. They don't want to talk to you. Now imagine your significant other and you're telling them something really important that happened today because you're so tired of them telling you what to do and you know how to do your own job. And that girl was telling, there's a G at the end. Right? Have you ever been in that emotional moment where you're sharing something and your significant other corrects you? Not only are they asking for death and a divorce, but you don't want to talk to them anymore today. Children don't do that. So we use recasting. That must have been so hard. Matilda's always getting in your business, telling you things. That's recasting to an adult. Don't do that, you're going to get it. But we do it with children and they accept it with grace. Helps them build vocabulary. The other tool that we have besides conversing with children is to read books multiple times. And so we are very I also accept it with grace. Because I model after young children. We are very intentional about explicit use of books. We really give a lot of thought on how we read books. And one of the things that we think about is how many times to read a book. Now, we as adults get very bored of the same story over and over again, but that is really powerful stuff to young children. And the research tells us to read it at least 3 times. We have more research coming out soon that's going to tell you to read it at least 5. So the first read is just for fun. The first time you're exposing a child to a book, it should just be go through the story and let them enjoy it. Because there's nothing where I am the worst person to go see a movie with my children, because we have to dialogue everything. So the first time we went to Lilo and Stitch, we're in the theater, we're watching Lilo and Stitch. Now typically I will read the book, you should, before you read it to children, and I will watch the movie before I watch it with my children, but this time I didn't. And I went to Lilo and Stitch, and Lilo bites people. And so I'm there in the theater with my 6 and 7-year-old going, what other choices could Lilo have made? How did Lilo, and all the people were like, shh, you're teaching me. So you don't want to interrupt the flow of the story the first time. So you just read it through for fun and enjoy it. The second time you read it through, it's for the events that occur in the book to help them understand the context of the story and the components of the story. What happened first in the book? Why do you think she did that? Where is she going? And why did they say home? What does her home look like? How's that like your home? Then you reread it the second time for words, for that explicit, intentional word work, where you're doing words and sounds. And oh, look, the title of this book is She Sells Shells. Just like your name, Sherry, that you're focusing on the sounds of the book. The fourth time you read it for social and emotional support. And this is one of the newer things that we in early learning have known and done all along. See, we don't need research to do a bunch of good stuff. We know what to do, right? We wish. Having the research really helps. But this is the part that gets left out a lot. The teachers will go through and do phonemic awareness and sound and word work, but they're not going to go through. But why do you think that Susan threw it down? And how do you think she threw it down? She threw it down hard. Yes, she threw it down really hard. Why would she do that? Her was angry. She was very angry, wasn't she? And why do you think she was angry? What are some things that happen when you feel angry? That kind of dialogue is still missing. And it's slowly getting into the classroom, but it's important for our world, in Birth Through 5 world, because they're building the foundations for social emotional development. I have a goal of one day ending road rage through 2-year-olds and story share. I'm working on starting with me. And it's a process for all of us, right? But if we can help children to manage their emotions through stories, they're going to have a context to work from when they get into issues, right? And then the fifth read is for cultural awareness and bias reduction. And so this is when we start looking at books and thinking, what are they learning from this book? How does this book connect to their lives? Are there opportunities to find evidence of unfairness here that we can talk about and make things a little more fair? Okay? So those are the 5 rereads, or the 5 reads rather. The other thing that we're intentional about with books is we select books where the children can see themselves. Raise your hand if you've seen this infographic before. I love this infographic, and this is the second version. The first one came out in 2015, this one came out in 2018, and they're working on another one. But what we notice in this infographic, is the Caucasian middle-class child has all these mirrors where they can see themselves. And the marginalization decreases how much the children can see themselves in the mirrors, right? To where our Native and Asian American only have a compact. We want to select books where children can see themselves and see others and get true pictures and depictions of who they are and who others are. And so that helps us to reduce bias. Another area is concepts of print, and the memo message is for children here to notice how words work. So we want the children to notice concepts of text. This is the front of the book, this is the back of the book. Look at the directionality of the book. The words go this way for our language. They go this way for other languages. They go this way for other languages. So it's language. But we want the concept of text, and words are made up of letters, and sentences are made up of words, and there are these things called spaces between the words. And then, of course, we want to know alphabetic. We want them to learn alphabetic knowledge. This letter is an S. It's just like the one that starts your name. Then we want to think about vocabulary and intentional word work. And so the memo message is help children notice and use words. And we have 3 tiers of vocabulary. There's tier 1, where there's everyday words, and these are words we use in everyday conversation. Tier 2, and these are words that you can use across contexts, like sort and think, and you can use it in a lot of different settings. And then there's tier 3 words, which are academic language words specific to a domain or a subject, like beaker or flask. You're not going to hear a lot of those. In teaching, we want to focus and help children notice in our stories tier 2 words as much as possible, because they can learn the meaning of the word and they can use it in a lot of different settings. And the way that we do that, the way that we do that is through our intentional support. So we do that with sight words. We play with sight words. Now this is where we get dangerous with the drill and kill. It's really easy to have a set of words go, look, say it, faster. And I'm not saying that the children won't learn the words that way. I'm saying that it's not an effective way to motivate them to read. So you want them to learn these words in context. There are words for preschoolers and kindergartners that you can include in your instruction or include in book talks at home. When you read a book, you should be talking about those books at home. I've done that all my life. And we've, how is this book, how did she do it just like we do it? What's different from her and here? Oh, there's that word again, cancel. We've seen that word 3 times in this story. Let's clap every time we hear the word cancel. Sound familiar? But we also have to do it in a playful, fun way so that they don't know that that's what's happening. So that because nobody wants to do more homework, right? And then what we do helps them learn the vocabulary. We can point and say, this word is cancel. And she is canceling it, meaning she's not doing it anymore. We can say the point. She went and she's going to cancel her visit. There's cancel, it means she's not going to do it anymore. Words in action, we can act it out. We can do a sign for cancel. I don't know where cancel came from in my head, but no. And then the child-friendly definition where we tell them, in the context of the story, that means she's not doing it anymore. So when we use those scaffolds and supports, we are intentionally including that vocabulary in our book share. Then we have explicit intentional sound work. We've known about this since the 80s or earlier, but it doesn't get a lot of focus. Young children need help noticing and exploring the sounds of the words. That's the memo message. Help children explore the sounds of their words. When we're good at the sounds in our words, we can start making that print-to-sound connection, but we need the sounds first. I told you they know the S word long before they can say it. It kind of works on that principle. We want our children to notice what sounds they're saying in their words, and it starts with phonological awareness, and phonological awareness is noticing the sounds that they say in large chunks. So we do rhyme play. We might sing, the wheels on the bus go round and round, or we might sing the bear went over the mountain, and we notice the words that sound the same in the end, right? And then we do syllable play. One of my favorite syllable games with 2-year-olds is let's drum our names. Douglas, I don't have a drum. I actually love that we copy games for this. Doug, and everybody gets a drum, and we all do Douglas, and then we all do Rayshawn, and then we all do Matilda, and we just beat them. So they notice, there's these chunks. Now I don't have to say, okay, 2-year-olds, your names are made up of what's called syllables. And syllables are the chunks of the words that contain the vowel sound. Didn't know that, did you? So, right? All I have to do is beat the word, and they start to internalize, you have, and I have. Those are the same, right? So we play with the sounds of the syllables, and then we do alliteration, and alliteration is when you notice words start the same. So rhymes are when words end the same, and alliteration is when words start the same. So Doug likes donuts, and I do. But we do that in the context of playing and interacting and eating with children, playing with children and reading with children. Then we move on to phonemic awareness. Phonemic awareness is the highest level of phonological awareness, and this is when children notice the individual sounds of words, not the chunks of sound. So the word cat has 3 phonemes, cat, and that's one of the first skills that we teach is let's count those sounds in your name. Right? And then we move to segmenting and blending. Now this is a critical skill because the research is very clear that children who can successfully segment and blend phonemes in a word orally, this is all oral, we're not showing letters in either of these 2 things, phonological or phonemic awareness, then there's a correlation for successful reading later. So we want to focus a lot of our time on taking a word and saying, boys and girls, I'm about to have a juice. What's the word? And they all go, Kyle, I want some too. And they say, no, it's mine. I share. But I just, in natural context, break the words up. And they blend it out together. Or I'll say, I just noticed your name has 3 sounds like, let's say the sounds of your name. And that's segmenting. And we all work together and play together in natural context. And then when they're really good at it, they can do manipulation, like they can move words around and say, I have a mop, and I'm going to take away and put there. What's the new word? Cup. So that's manipulation. So we want to play with those things in natural, fun ways. We know that children need at least 15 to 30 minutes by the end of the day. Please don't go write a law that they have to spend 30 minutes in community awareness. That's not natural or fun. But by the end of the day, they need a good 15 to 30 minutes of sound play to have a solid foundation by the time they get to first grade. That was a really fast one, and I'm only a little late. Look at me.
You're doing great.
I was very intentional, and so were you. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Who's got questions?
My question is, can you come to our audition?
I like to play with anybody who wants to help children. And it usually only costs a nice letter that I was really sweet and did a great job, so I can turn it in at the end of the year of my evaluation. And if it's too far, you're paying for me to like stay places. I am a preschool teacher by nature, and even at the college level, we are paying very poorly.
Well, I just want to take them home and put them in my pocket. I want to go to I want to sit in your class. That was phenomenal. Hold it. Any questions for Dr. Douglas Bell?
Right,
Oh, actually, if you go to the back, oh, you found it. It's page 11, 10 and 11. Oh, no, that's. Actually, in the back, there's a whole resource section. He generously gave his notes and brief references here doesn't have a page number.
You can jot it down too. It's dbell22 at Kennesaw.edu. dbell for Doug Bell. dbell22, the number 22, like I look, but I'm not anymore. At Kennesaw.edu.
Amazing.
Other questions?
Yes.
Hey, that was awesome. I do have a question with play for older kids. So I know I was actually talking with our school district not too long ago about social emotional and that they've taken centers out of kindergarten and what would like. Because I'm going to say, do you think they should be back in kindergarten? And
Yes.
I guess I say yes. Sounds.
There's a lot of research to support that.
So what would your recommendation be for our state to be able to explain that play should be back in kindergarten, but also when does play in centers when should that start waning?
So that, all good questions. I love the waning thought. So I'll give you the basic principle. The basic principle is we have done a lot of research in early childhood. Now, I want everyone in this room to remember, kindergarten is not an elementary grade. It's an early childhood grade that sits in an elementary school. Because we do things differently in early childhood. And in early childhood, we need a minimum, for it to be effective and get the long-term results that we're after, of 45 uninterrupted minutes of free play. Not crazy free play, but structured free play. Kindergartners can handle structured free play. But we need opportunities for sensory motor play, because they still need that. Even you need that. The first time you get a new camera or cell phone, you start pushing all the buttons without thinking, right? That's sensory motor play with your gadget. So we need sensory motor play experiences and fluid play experiences, and we need structured construction play and games with rules experiences, and we need sociodramatic play experiences. We learned in the 50s and 60s with Sarah Smolansky that children that sustain a 30-minute sociodramatic play episode, they're better readers and better thinkers. The research is not new. In fact, it's so old, I'm actually not allowed to publish about it because it's considered standard. So when I try to write an article, they're like, all your references are too old. I'm like, but nobody is studying this anymore, and we need people to remember they forgot. So that's the first piece. The second piece is we can reduce that time and offer more structure as children enter first grade. They still need playtime, but they may not need an hour long. See, it's assumed that children go home from school and play, but they don't. They are full-time engaged in games with rules. And games with rules is a top-level play. It's a top stage. They have no time after because they play their video games and they do passive entertainment through media, or they talk, they talk with friends, but they're not engaged in true play. And it's hurting our nation. It's hurting our nation socially, emotionally for the most, and for me the most important, but it's also hurting our nation's achievement. So the short answer is yes, we need it. There is research to support it. I would start, now my wife taught kindergarten in Georgia for 7 years, and she was the only teacher in her school allowed to do center time because she knew how to do it right. That's the missing piece. Our teachers need to be trained in supporting and scaffolding and teaching through play, and stop sending children to play and be a part of it so that we can intentionally scaffold that language, that literacy, that social. Long answer, sorry.
If there are no other questions, let's give a huge round of applause. Wow. I feel like playing now. We kind of get to do by having conversation and dialogue. So we're going to get to dive deeper into Dr. Bell's principles and what he discussed in another 40-minute conversation.
I'm so sorry and so rude. I had an ending thought. Remember how I told you we dialogue play? My daughter is 26. We read books together. Our dialogue looks different, but we still dialogue the books. What did you notice about the actor, not the actors, but my youngest daughter's going to play tonight, she's an actress. But what did you notice about the characters? How do they like things going on in your life? What could you relate to? The conversation continues, it doesn't stop.